Hey y'all, it's Nick from 32 Pitch, and welcome back to the 32 Pitch, our podcast with me and Drew. How you doing today, Drew?
I'm doing really well. How about you, man? I know it's a difficult time and we all miss baseball, but how's it going for you, man?
It's going pretty well. So today we are going to be talking about the NL Central and our preview on the NL Central. So you were gonna say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to start off by shouting out. So this team right here, they're the Great Falls Voyagers in Montana. They're like a rookie league affiliate for the Chicago White Sox, and I got this hat from my friend Evan. He's actually a friend of the program, so thanks for joining us, Evan. He's the equipment manager for the team, and I wanted to dedicate today's podcast to minor league baseball because I know it's a tough time for those guys as well. You know that it puts their time trying to get to the big leagues on hold. A lot of financial issues that come with the minor league baseball, and they've even talked. Maybe we could do another show on how they've talked about getting rid of some minor league teams and taking the funding away. But I just wanted to shout out Great Falls, Montana, my buddy Evan Rowe, who's a great guy, and eventually he's gonna be with a major league team soon. And I think he may be working for the Yankees now. He was with their spring training complex. So thank you, Evan, for supporting our show, and thank you to minor league baseball.
Yeah, thanks for your support, Evan. We really appreciate it here at the 3-2 Pitch. And also, I want to, before we get started, I want to thank Shin Chu Chu for donating. It was like $1,000 to every minor leaguer in the Rangers organization. I love to see these big league players that have the financial ability to go out and donate to the players in the minor league system. So I love to see that. I love the support going around during this time. It's really difficult for everyone, and just for people to go out and support others. It's a really generous thing, and I really, I like it. It brings us as a baseball community together. It makes us look even better. Okay, so now we can get started. But right before we get started with the NL Central, hit that like button and subscribe. Okay, done with the self promo. So I have a question that basically before each we go into preview, we ask a question. So this week we're gonna keep going on with this shutdown. And I want to ask, if you could get baseball back tomorrow, would your favorite team would you be okay with your favorite team not winning a single game in 2020?
That's a really good question. I think this year that question might be easier to answer than in the past, because I don't think my team, the Giants, were going to win very many games anyway. Although I did pick them fourth above Colorado, but you know what? I would, Nicholas, and here's why. I don't know if I know we have some local people that have joined our podcast, and I don't know if you got to see yesterday, but we're filming this today on Saturday. But I know yesterday, Friday, was supposed to be the San Francisco Giants home opener, and Mike Krukow, their famous broadcaster, he filmed. He put together a minute and a half of greatness and talked about how much we missed the game and how much we started taking the game for granted a little bit over the last few years, and with all the analytics and all the numbers and the lack of kind of losing the old school feel of baseball that I grew up loving when my dad used to take me to Candlestick Park. I would take the game back in a heartbeat. Unfortunately, and I hate to be pessimistic, I have a feeling that we may not get it back this year, and I'm not saying that with any, that there are no facts behind that. I'm just from what I see. I'm hopeful that they'll be able to pull something together, maybe in the middle of the summer. But I'm pessimistic now with everything that's happening around the world. So I would take it back in a heartbeat. It reminds me a lot of 1994 when you weren't born yet. You were just a thought at that time. But the Montreal Expos, they I don't know if you know this story, Nicholas, but they had the best record in baseball. And it was after the All-Star break in 94, and that's when the players went on strike. And that was the year that there was no World Series. And that team, that Montreal Expos team, Larry Walker, a young Marquise Grissom, Delino DeShields, a young Pedro Martinez, John Wetland closing out games with Mel Rojas as the setup man, Cliff Floyd playing first base, just a great, amazing, Moises Alou, Felipe Alou was the manager, just a great young team. that was going to win the World Series, and they never got to. And that was actually the beginning of the end for the Expos. They ended up moving to the Washington Nationals, which had a happy ending last year. So they finally got their World Series, technically. But the people of Montreal did get to enjoy it. And I just think back to that and how sad that was that we lost a baseball season. And I have the same feeling now, and I want the game back.
Yeah, and I'm right where you were. This decision is kind of hard. I mean, if you think about it, for as a Mets fan here, no, not a bandwagon. NL Central, St. Louis Cardinals stuff. Go to Missouri every summer. Shout out Missouri. But with the Mets, they're so competitive and they have a real good chance. But I mean, it makes this decision losing Thor. And I think no matter what, even if I was the Dodgers, even if I was the Yankees, I'd take my favorite team losing every game. I just want baseball back. I think I'm not a fan of just one team. I'm a fan of baseball. And being a fan of baseball, you can appreciate the game, and you can say, okay, well, like me, I'm one of my goals is have a hat and jersey from each MLB team, because I'm a fan of baseball. So you can appreciate the game more than you can appreciate your favorite team, and that's kind of my position on it. So of course, yes, I would take the Mets losing every game to get baseball back tomorrow.
I'm surprised you say that, Nicholas. You being such a fan and such a selfish Mets fan at that. But I guess that just shows how all of us really miss the game.
Yep, for sure. Biggest Mets fan.
Let's get into it.
Yeah, sure. So who do you have at fifth place?
Well, why don't you introduce what division we're talking about first?
Oh, of course, the NL Central. We're talking about the NL Central. We had the Cardinals winning it last year, so it's actually probably one of the more loaded divisions in baseball. It's last year I was looking forward to watching this division along with the NL East. This division did not disappoint last year, and I don't think it'll disappoint again. So let's talk about the lousy team in this division. Who you got?
First of all, I am super excited about this division. It's a great division. And to me, I've mentioned this before, the two divisions that I will have my eye on, again, if baseball comes back this year, is the NL Central and the AL East. To me, the AL East is fascinating, and we'll get to that. The reason why it's so fascinating is because of the young talent, especially with Toronto. It really is incredible what they have and what their future looks like with those three studs they have in their lineup. But we'll start with the NL Central, and it's a great division. And the reason why it is because it's going to be close. And it has been close the last few years. I do think there are some changes in this division up towards the top. Now, in fifth place, I do have Pittsburgh. So I've got the Pirates, and I have a lot of Pirates friends that live in the Bay Area. So I'm sorry if you're tuning in, but I think you would agree with me that the Pirates, they're a young team. They're in rebuild mode. They do have a little bit. They have some pretty good talent in their starting rotation with Joe Musgrove, and I still like Chris Archer. I still think he has, something to prove, and he's got that bulldog mentality. But as you start looking, and they do have, they have some talent in their bullpen. They have a guy named Cal Crick who I really like, and he came from the Giants organization. Giants kind of gave up on him a few years ago, but I love Cal Crick. I love his stuff and his mentality. But when you look at their lineup, it's just a very young lineup. Obviously they lost Starling Marte, who was a huge part of their lineup. They do have some young guys, Josh Bell, Frazier, and Brian Reynolds, their left fielder, who also the Giants gave up on. And that one hurt a little bit because he had a wonderful year last year. I mean, you talk about a guy, 314, 16 homers, 68 ribbies, 154 hits, and 491 at bats. That's a really good season for basically a rookie. And a guy that, good on base percentage also, and a gap to gap hitter, 37 doubles. So, again, not only 491 at bats in 135 games played. So pretty impressive player, and somebody that they can definitely count on. You want to have guys that have the high on base percentage, that don't strike out much, gap to gap hitters, that can take that not just at home, but also take it on the road when they're hitting. So I like their lineup. I do like some of their pieces, but in this division, we're going to get to the depth of this division in a moment. They're just on a day-to-day basis. They're not going to be able to compete, but shortened season, I mean, anything's possible. But I do have them in 5th place.
Yeah, I have them in 5th place too. They actually were a pretty solid team through majority of like the first half of the season last year. I knew they were in contention at one point. I went to Australia in July, so I mean they were still in it. I mean, those were one of the teams that the Mets were like, you got to beat them. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but kind of got to beat them in order to make the playoffs, in which they didn't. But the thing that I'm really high on with the Pirates is their up and coming rotation. Joe Musgrove, Jameson Taillon, Nick Kingham. I mean, Mitch Keller, Kyle Crick, like you mentioned. I think those are going to be some great, great young players. You have Chris Archer and Derek Holland to kind of tie the team together. Those veteran present players, Kilo and Keela as your closer. So they're very interesting team. It's going to be fun to watch them when their pitchers start to come up. Nick Kingham, I'm looking really high on him. I think he's going to be an absolute stud in the major leagues. One of the big things that you guys have that I think you should use is you have Josh Bell, this massive first baseman. And if you trade him right now, I don't know if he can. I mean, we saw his second half of the season. It was slow. I think the move right now would be continue the rebuild, trade Josh Bell. You can still keep Brian Reynolds, Adam Frazier. You still have a solid group of young guys, but you can provide such a return for Josh Bell right now where it may be worth it just to trade him. And, wait till your 1 through 5, 1 through 7, prospects come up. And then that will be right in that area you'll contend. There's no way you're contending this year or next year. So you're just wasting Josh Bell's kind of arbitration and service time. So in my opinion, I think you trade Josh Bell, continue this rebuild, and you guys are going to be right where you need to be in a couple of years. Bright future.
And they've done this before. They've rebuilt their organization. They did this. In 2014, 2015, they had really good teams that made it. Unfortunately, I believe it may have been 14 and 16, and I think even before that they were in the playoffs. And they never. They may have made it out of the wild card round once against Cincinnati, the famous Cueto wild card game when they beat Cincinnati. But they ended up in 2014, they lose to the Giants in the wild card game. In 2016, they lose to the Cubs in the wild card game. Both of those Cubs and Giants teams end up winning the World Series. So, it's interesting really to see where they were, and then they've come back down again. But I don't see why they can't bring it back to where they were. Baseball is that way, where you can really rebuild it back up.
Yeah, for sure. And another thing that I lead me to believe that they should trade Josh Bell is that they have a full new slate, full new coaching staff, full new management team. So I think that's just another reason that they're going to continue this rebuild. Their organization is great at bringing up young pitchers. So I think that's something to look forward to. Like I said, their young pitchers are going to be good. So moving on to 4th place, who you got?
This is where we'll probably start to see some discrepancies in what we think here, but this was a tough decision because my 4th place team is a team that has been technically in the playoffs the last couple of years, and that's Milwaukee. But this is the inevitable sort of decline in a team that really hasn't addressed their pitching. To me, I know that they were a player in the Madison Bumgarner sweepstakes, but Bumgarner obviously wanted to have his ranch in Arizona with his horses. And Milwaukee just wasn't a desirable place for him. When you look at their starting rotation, their aces, Brandon Woodruff with Adrian Hauser and Brett Anderson in your rotation, where I just don't see that type of rotation being able to compete in a competitive division. They do have some pieces in the bullpen, obviously Josh Hader, Corey Knebel, and a guy named Ray Black, who don't sleep on. He's also from the Giants organization. He came over with in the deal last year for Mauricio Dubon, who I'm really happy about. So I was actually happy about that deal. The Giants have themselves a stud in Dubon, but they also traded Drew Pomerantz in that deal. But Ray Black, I mean, he's got high 90s, 100-mile-an-hour fastball. And that cannot be – you don't want to – don't take that for granted because that's important, especially in today's baseball. But, Lorenzo Kane, Ryan Braun, Christian Yelich, all a year older. Yelich coming off of that injury. Sogard and Arcia and Keston Huria, obviously some really great, infielders. Sogard's a little bit older, but also Justin Smoke is a guy they brought in. But I do feel like they lost a lot. They lost Mike Moustakas to Cincinnati, who we'll talk about in a little bit, and it's going to be tough for them to make up for that production. And I just, when I look at Ryan Braun, I don't see him as the kind of guy that can really make an impact anymore. And I lost respect for him after the whole testing thing, that whole mess that he got himself into. So they're going to take a step back this year. They just are. And I mean, they've got some guys. They've got Brock Holt and Jed Jerko. I mean, they might be better than they might get to third place. I wouldn't be surprised. If one of the teams that I feel is going to make that jump maybe takes a step back. But I have them in fourth. I don't see them competing for a division or a wild card spot. And then also on top of that, they're going to have to recover from that loss in the wild card game to Washington where they had the 3-0 lead. And then, just pretty much gave it away. And what was the name of the outfielder? Was it Gamble?
Trent Grisham.
Oh, Grisham. Yeah, that was rough. What a rough play for that kid in left field, in right field, sorry. So it's going to be tough for them to recover from that. And they do have, some good talent, but I just don't see them competing. So I have them in fourth.
Yeah, I am actually going to agree with this. Like you mentioned, their pitching staff, they failed to address it again. They actually made their staff worse, in my opinion, trading Zach Davies away and Trent Grisham in the trade that they acquired Luis Urias and another prospect, I believe, from the Padres. So Luis Urias is going to be a nice player, I believe, for y'all. Replace Orlando Arcia nicely. But, I mean, you guys got worse than you got better. Your rotation speak, Woodruff being your ace. I mean, Josh Hader in your bullpen, he's a stud. But, I mean, you guys got by far worse this offseason. You lost Zach Davies. You guys lost Grandal. You lost Moustakas. Did get some nice ads in Narvaez, obviously Garcia. You extended Yelich. You guys got Smoke and Jerko and Sogard. So, I mean, you guys made a bunch of small moves. Keston Hira is going to look to build on a strong 2019 campaign. Yelich off that extension, but yet also off an injury. So, I mean, Kane, Braun, they're all years older. So, I mean, I don't have this team doing very well. I mean, they can definitely push. They have some pieces at the trade deadline if they go out and get, a nice starter from another team. Maybe a Chris Archer from the Pirates if they're willing to give up on him. I know interdivision trade, but they've done that the last couple seasons. But, I mean, just if they get another starter or two, then, I mean, towards the trade deadline, they're in it. Then I think they're definitely a team that can push for a wild card. But until then, I just have them fourth place. I don't think they're very strong. Okay, third place. Who you got? We'll probably see some disagreements here now.
Yeah, so – the one thing that I don't do, and a lot of experts will do this, they will get really excited about a team that they think, is ready for the division, ready for the challenge. And I mean, look at San Diego, the last couple of years, everyone was excited about San Diego. What do? They sort of just stick where they are. They don't really improve. And there are many reasons for that. With baseball, there's so many factors to why a team, gets to that point. Sometimes it's just their division and the other teams and what the other teams are, how they progress. But a lot of experts are, and I assume you too, because you're one of those people that jump to conclusion. A lot of people are high on Cincinnati this year, really high on them, to the point where they think they can win the division. I am not as high on them. However, and I do have them in third place in this division, Cincinnati. However, I think that they are a team that really can compete for a wild card spot. And the reason I say that is because I think this division could have – sounds crazy. They could be the division that has the division winner and the 2 wild cards. It's not unprecedented for that to happen. We've seen that where, even in this division the last couple of years where – the teams are so close up at the top and you end up having a wild card race and a division race at the same time. So I think Cincinnati is going to be in it. Do I think they're going to get one of those spots? Probably not, but they're going to be right on the cusp. So I do have Cincinnati in third place. They've got a stud in Luis Castillo. They've got Trevor Bauer, Sonny Gray, Wade Miley, and they've got I can't pronounce his last name.
Desclafani.
Desclafani. Okay, they've got a great rotation with some depth. So that's number one. They've also got Pedro Strop that they signed. They've got the fighter Amir Garrett. They've got Lorenzen, the great story, Michael Lorenzen, and they've got Iglesias closing out games. Their lineup, is improved when you bring in Moustakas and Castellanos. That's going to really, give them more depth in their lineup with an older Joey Votto and, obviously Eugenio Suarez and Freddie Galvez. They've got some pieces. Okay, they've got some pieces. They play in a ballpark that is hitter friendly. That's going to help Moustakas, you'd think. That's going to help Castellanos, definitely. Although Castellanos was getting help last year when he was in Chicago. You saw how that worked for him when he finally got out of Comerica Park, the place that he was basically dogging for years and talking about how they should move the fences in. They're going to be a good team. Okay, they're going to be over 500. Again, the shortened season might make them a division contender. It really could, because if they get off to a strong start, if they get off, with some momentum, they can carry that. But if we're talking about a long season, if we're talking about even a half a season, I do think that they're not going to quite be there yet. They've got a great manager who I respect a lot, David Bell, who's tough and really understands the game, and I think his players really respect him. They're going to be good. I think next year they're going to be a division contender. This year, not quite.
Yeah, I disagree with everything you just said. I am one of the people that are very, very high on the Reds for a reason I'll talk about when we get to them.
Yeah.
But for me, third place, I have the Chicago Cubs. I am not a believer in Yu Darvish coming back strong and John Lester having a solid season. Kyle Hendricks, I know he's going to be a stud. But the reason they've lost depth. Tyler Chatwood, I don't think he's going to be anything good again. Jose Quintana, Hendricks, Darvish, and Lester. I mean, their entire rotation is getting older and older. They're all not hard-throwing flamethrowers. Hendricks is the only guy I kind of believe in. They're all soft-throwing players. I mean, it's hard to trust in these older soft-throwing players. Cole Hamels, they lost him. So, I mean, I'm not a believer in anything the Cubs have in their rotation-wise. Craig Kimbrell, another year older. I mean, you guys got Jeffress. You guys didn't add much in the offseason, which is another big reason I'm not high on you guys. I mean, you guys didn't, make the playoffs last season. So, I mean, this is why I keep him in third place. I mean, Contreras, he's going to be a young stud. Rizzo, he's always consistent, but I mean, once he's getting older, I mean, we know Chris Bryant, he's going to be a stud like he has been. Jason Hayward, he's not going to be anything. Baez, how could I forget him? He's going to be a young stud. So I mean, their lineup is good, but they're kind of right with the Brewers. I don't trust their pitching staff whatsoever. Yeah, it's good. The Cubs are going to be in contention, but I mean, I don't think that they have enough pieces where their rotation will be solid and hold up for an entire year. Like I said, the only person I kind of truly believe in is Kyle Hendricks. He is a super, super underrated pitcher. But, I mean, you guys took a hit in losing Cole Hamels. He was great for you after you acquired him from Texas. So, like I said, Cubs, third place. I'm not a believer in their rotation.
Fair enough.
The second place. Who you got?
So I think we disagree again on this, or maybe we agree on second place, but just sort of the formation of it. But I have St. Louis. I have St. Louis in second place. I'm not sold again. Listen, I'm not sold on them being a juggernaut where they are going to be able to take the momentum from last year and carry that over, because to me, losing Marcell Ozuna was big. That's a lot of production. Yadier Molina, another year older. There's just only so much longer he can do this at a productive, rate. They have Matt Wieters as a backup. Goldschmidt's going to have a good year, and that's a given. Colton Wong, a year older. Harrison Bader, I'm not sold on him at least as a productive player for offensively. Defensively, he's amazing. Dexter Fowler, another year older. Uh, the starting rotation to me also is nothing to write home about with Flaherty and Mikolas and Hudson. Wainwright and Martinez to me are shells. Andrew Miller, a lot of mileage on that arm. They're going to be good. Don't get me wrong, and I think that they definitely have I think they probably will get one of the wild card spots. But if you're asking me who's going to win the division, I do not think it's going to be St. Louis. I don't think that they have enough. I don't think that they have enough offensively. When I look at their roster, I don't see that consistent punch that is going to carry them to win a division in a shortened season where you may have Cincinnati get off to a really great start because they're going to have a lot of, they have momentum. They have maybe self-fulfilled momentum that they've created within their own sort of roster and their own locker room. But, I like the old reliable, and I'll get to that in a moment and why I like old reliable. So I'm taking St. Louis in second place with a good chance to get a wild card spot.
Yeah, so I agree with you. St. Louis second. My second and first place can be separated between a matter of 1 or 2 games. I'm still really high on St. Louis. Don't get me wrong. Shout out St. Louis, Missouri guy. But I mean, Jack Flaherty, his second half of the season was elite. I think he's going to be a Zach Wheeler. Have a strong second half. He's going to take a slight step back in the first half. He's going to get it together in the second half again. I still think Jack Flaherty, he's going to be a stud. I dropped him fantasy. I'm high on him still. Dakota Hudson, Mikolas, Wainwright, they're going to be solid pitchers. The big wild card and why I have the Cardinals, closer to the Reds is Kwang Hyun Kim. This guy in spring training pitched 8 innings, 11 Ks, no runs. I think this guy is going to be a stud for y'all. I think he was a great signing. Carlos Martinez, Ponce de Leon. I mean, you guys have the arms. Jordan Hicks coming off Tommy John. Andrew Miller has lost command. Giovanni Gallegos, he was a great addition. So, I mean, you guys have the pieces to, go in the pitching staff. The thing that, like you said, I'm a little bit skeptical on is their hitting. Molina's a year older. Goldschmidt, he's going to bounce back like crazy this year. Now that he's used to St. Louis, it's the first time playing for a different team for him. Colton Wong, I'm still kind of high on him. I feel like he had a great season last year to try to build upon it. They have some young studs in Tommy Edman. Harrison Bader, I think, is going to do well. A big wild card for me is Tyler O'Neill. Will he slot in for Marcell Ozuna and be strong? Power speed hitter for O'Neill. I think if he can get himself together, he will easily fill the shoes for Marcell Ozuna. So I think even better. I mean, Paul DeJong. I mean, when I look at this lineup, I see depth. I see lots of moves that you can make. You guys have Gorman coming on the way for third base. So Matt Carpenter, he's looking even better at spring training. So, I mean, he had an off-season routine, just like Familia and Diaz. We'll talk about the Mets in the next one when we do the NL East preview. But, I mean, Carpenter's looking better. I think you're going to have a strong bounce back here from Carpenter. So, Edman, I'm kind of high on Edman. He was strong. He hit 300. Tyler O'Neill. So, I mean, I think the Cardinals have lots of depth. The rotation and pitching staff is strong enough for second place. Really, really close to a division winner. But division – the last team you have, Chicago Cubs, why do you got them at first place?
Again, I'm a big believer in old reliable. When I look at a baseball season, and I've always done this, is I look at, since there are so many games, and again, it's shortened, so this is take all of this with a grain of salt, audience, because this could be unlike any other season we've had, if it even starts. But I just believe when you look at a baseball season, you want to look at, there's so many games, what team is going to give you the best chance to be successful? Because we know that if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times, you're successful. That means you're failing 7 times. So I'm looking for trends. I'm looking for the best percentage or odds in a team. And when I look at this roster, I mean, I think they're one of the most talented rosters in the league. I still think so. And you could argue with me with that if you want, but just from top to bottom, they are super talented. Yu Darvish, I mean, his stuff is just incredible, and he's going to continue to get better as he gets older. I believe that. I know he's had a few rough years, and he's been through it. He's had some scars. I mean, Game 7 of the World Series, that was a scar against Houston, although they were stealing signs. But but the thing about Yu Darvish is that stuff is going to translate. Kyle Hendricks is still an elite pitcher. He's one of those guys. He's like a Greg Maddux. He's going to age well, like fine wine. I like Quintana. I still like Lester, and Chatwood is a great fifth starter. So you talk about their depth, they've got it. Okay. You talk about their bullpen. Yeah, they lost Strope. Maybe Jeffers. Hopefully he can take over in that role and still bring that in. Craig Kimbrell, he's incredible. I mean, if he can keep his head on straight, he's going to be great. Their lineup, when you talk about Contreras, Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Schwarber, Happ, David Bodie off the bench, Descalso, who's still pretty good, Albert Amora Jr. and my wild card is Steven Souza Jr. We'll see how he sort of winds into his new role, and who knows if he's going to be coming off the bench or not. But I mean, talk about talent. When he first came up in Tampa, he was supposed to be a blue chip, and maybe it didn't work out, but he may have second life. And then the last wild card is David Ross, their new manager. I just think he's going to bring them a lot of energy, and I think Joe Maddon's voice started to get tuned out a little bit. He's the kind of guy. He's the kind of manager that he has a shelf life, and he's shown that where he brings a lot when he first gets there, and he got them their World Series. I mean, I think Cubs fans are forever grateful for that World Series, and they'll never forget it because they suffered more than any other franchise. 1908, but 108 years. Just think about how long that is. But he just kind of overstayed his welcome. And I think Ross is a young, energetic, former catcher. The players are going to respect him. He's not my favorite guy in the world. He comes off as a little bit, kind of egotistical, but I think he's going to do well in that role. So I think, it's going to be close. Again, I think Cincinnati, Chicago, St. Louis, Chicago, I think they're going to be right there. But I do think Chicago is going to end up getting the division probably by a game or two.
Yeah. I mean, I can agree with the managerial, but another thing I like to take in consideration is the Cubs' money perspective and the chances of them perhaps trading a stud like Chris Bryant or Wilson Contreras talks about trading them away for prospects. I know it sounds very outstretched, but I mean it's definitely a strong possibility because they don't have the budget room to go out and make more additions to help get a younger pitching staff. So I think trading one of them would provide a young player to replace him at that position, as well as get another young arm for the rotation, which is very weak. The Cubs lack some depth, so if they get hit with an injury, I don't think that that's something that I feared, which is why I keep them so low. Is they have no depth, kind of, except for in their lineup. So I mean, their pitching staff, someone goes out, they're basically done for the season. So that's why I have the Cubs in third place. And for my first place team, the team I'm really, really high on this year is the Cincinnati Reds. Why is that? They're young Luis Castillo. This guy may take the Cy Young away from DeGrom this year. He has a nasty changeup. I mean, this guy has all the pieces he needs. He had the strong year last year. He is going to build upon that. He is going to be absolutely dominant this year. And then you have Sonny Gray to back him up. Getting him out of New York was a top move for him. He needed out. I mean, he has a nasty two-seam. Bauer, I mean, he just plays with every batter. I think their rotation is solid. Can you get the Wade Miley that has a 3 ERA throughout the first half of the season? Will you get him for a 3.7 ERA for an entire season? Will Desclafani be strong and have a low 4 ERA? I mean, you guys have that. And then you guys improve your bullpen, getting Strop. I think Lorenzen can break out. Add in Nate Jones. Matt Bowman's strong. Garrett, of course, he has a nasty slider. Iglesias, can he bounce back? But, I mean, the reason I'm so high on them is their addition of Mike Moustakas, Shogo Akiyama, and Nick Castellanos. I think those three are going to be really solid. Eugenio Suarez can easily hit 45 home runs again. Moustakas and Castellanos, they're going to be solid. This also, the wild card factor, provides protection to a player like Joey Votto. Yes, he's getting older, but I am really high on him for bouncing back this season. I think he's too good not to have 2, 3, 4 straight down years. I think he is a solid bounce back candidate, which is why I'm putting him so high. And then, Aristides Aquino, hello. If we get a full season of him, this is another player that can go out and hit 30-something home runs for y'all. So, I am really high on the Cincinnati Reds this year. Yeah, I can see them. Maybe they go out and struggle a little bit, but I think that they're too good to struggle for an entire season. And I think, that being said, they can even go out and trade a player and get a solid shortstop or something to replace Galvis, even though he's solid. I think the Reds, they're taking first place in the division.
Wishful thinking, buddy. Wishful thinking.
Thank you all so much for watching the 3-2 pitch on the NL Central, our preview on the NL Central. Comment below what you guys think about the NL Central. Who do you think is going to win the division? This is going to be a really, really good division. We want to know what y'all think in the comment sections below. Next week, we are going to be talking about the NL East. So if you have any predictions, put them in the comment section below. We may feature you in next week's episode. That's something we want to incorporate is you guys into this podcast. So make sure to comment below. Stay active. I want to thank Drew for coming out this week and making this one work. Next week, hopefully, we can get out and do it again. And yeah.
Before we go, Nicholas, don't count on me picking the Mets. I don't. Although I will say this, that they've got my eye. They've got my eye. But maybe that could be something that you guys comment on. Do you think Drew will pick the Mets or not to win the division? I would say probably no.
I would have to. I'm not going to say. So, come back next week to see where I put the Mets, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching the podcast. Make sure to comment below. Your comments will be featured in next week's episode of the podcast, where we're going to be talking about all the NL East. Also, before I end this video, make sure to follow me on Twitch. I live stream every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, perhaps maybe even a Thursday stream. So make sure to stop by at on Twitch, it's Nick_Crafts. Make sure to follow me there. But otherwise, YouTube recommends you watch the video in top left corner, as well as click in the top right corner to watch my most recent upload. Click in the middle to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.